So in my last video, I briefly talked about Russia's shadow fleet, and I know I'm going to get questions about that, so I decided I'm just going to make a video to get out ahead of it and talk about exactly what their shadow fleet is and what we can do about it. So Russia's shadow fleet refers to a clandestine network of ocean vessels employed to circumvent international sanctions, particularly those targeting its oil exports. Now, this fleet has expanded quite a bit since sanctions were imposed on Russia following their invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Estimates suggest that by late 2024, Russia's shadow fleet comprised over 1,000 vessels, including more than 400 crude oil tankers, facilitating the transport of approximately 4 million barrels of oil daily. Now, to obscure Russia's activities, these ships often operate under flags from countries with lax maritime regulations, such as Liberia, Palau, Gabon, Cook Islands, or Cameroon. The ships engage in deceptive practices like disabling tracking systems, falsifying International Maritime Organization numbers, using cryptocurrencies for payments, and conducting ship-to-ship oil transfers at sea. Now, these tactics do make it difficult for countries to monitor and enforce sanctions effectively. Now, the shadow fleet's operations pose major environmental and safety risks as well. Many of these vessels are aging and poorly maintained, increasing the likelihood of accidents, oil spills, and other maritime incidents. For instance, in December of 2024, 2 such tankers caused severe oil spills in the Black Sea due to operator negligence, leading to environmental damage, and this led to calls for stricter enforcement of these shadow fleets. Now, the ships are often uninsured, meaning any damage they cause will not be paid for when they leak or sink, trying to circumvent the West's €60 per barrel price cap. Now, targeting this shadow fleet as they exit Russian ports is the most effective way to enforce the cap and detain them before disaster. Most Russian oil exports rely on the Baltic and Black Seas, making the Turkish Straits and the Danish Straits key choke points for interdiction. The West is now preparing comprehensive sanctions packages focusing on the vessels, their owners, and the financial networks enabling their operations. The United Kingdom has already sanctioned 72 such ships, and the Biden administration is finalizing a sweeping strategy to make these operations prohibitively costly. Meanwhile, the Nordic and Baltic nations are taking more forceful measures to intercept these ships. By enforcing stricter documentation requirements, conducting random checks, and impounding non-compliant vessels, they can disrupt Russia's oil operations. The United States and the United Kingdom are leveraging their vast maritime influence to stop these ships from being able to port anywhere due to their lack of insurance. By forcing ship owners to choose between losing their assets by risking their operations on a single profitable trip, the West aims to curtail the fleet's activities. Now, these measures won't halt all Russian oil exports entirely, nor do they really need to. The objective is to ensure that Russian oil sold outside China adheres to the price cap, and if achieved, China will refuse to pay more than the €60 per barrel because they're just friends with Russia. They're opportunists, and they likely will demand an additional discount if they see global oil reach under that level, and this reduces the Kremlin's revenues even further. And some of these measures seem to be working because there are reports of Russian shadow fleet ships spending months at sea trying to land at various different ports to offload their cargo and make some money for themselves, only to be turned away consistently, thus forcing them back to Russia to unload their Russian cargo, which costs Russia money. With these measures, Russian oil prices will likely fall back to the capped level. Ironically, as I said in my last video, Putin's undersea sabotage has provided the West with a perfect pretext to crack down on this shadow fleet. It's an opportunity they should immediately leverage and apply additional pressure to the Russian economy.